Welcome to another episode of the I Believe podcast. I am your host, Bo Bartholomew, and today we have a very special topic. With most of America having started school, I decided that it would be great to look at education. What is it? When is education? How is education? Let's do a short history, actually quick this time. Education is the process of receiving or giving information, and since the start of time, people have been doing just that. Education can be applied to legitimately everything. We are constantly learning, and therefore we are constantly subject to education. In the more modern idea of education, we can go to school to receive instruction and learn to grow and become better, which means you can learn to become a teacher, doctor, parent, plumber, electrician, engineer, mechanic, or anything else that you can put your heart's desire to. And here at I Believe, we believe that we should always be learning and that there is always something to learn. Along with that, if you haven't noticed, this is actually the entire goal of this podcast, to learn about the world around us and to make it a bit more understandable. And that concludes the short history of education. Now, for this episode, I invited the amazing Alex Jeppson, or as he is more commonly known, Mr. Jeppson, to the podcast for an interview. Mr. Jeppson was one of my favorite teachers, and without further ado, I will have him introduce himself.
Yeah, so I am Alex Jeppson. I'm a teacher at Viewmont High School. I teach AP World History and AP US History. This is my 12th year teaching, which is hard to believe. It's gone by that fast. I used to only teach English, but now I only teach history. I've lived in the Centerville, Utah, Bountiful area my whole life. Grew up in Centerville, graduated from Viewmont, so my roots here run deep. But yeah, the most important thing, in my opinion, about me is my family. That's the best part of my life. So I am married, my beautiful wife, Laura. We've been married. We just celebrated our 9th wedding anniversary. And then we have 2 girls. We got Blakely, who is in 3rd grade, just started 3rd grade, and Nova, who's a 1st grader. And yeah, they're my life, my pride and joy. I couldn't ask for a better family. My wife's incredible. My girls are growing so fast and they know so much. They're fantastic. And that's the most important part about me. And other than that, I'm a pretty average, chill dude. I'm a nerd. I like nerdy things, Marvel, board games, card games, video games, like going to movies a lot as a family. We like to travel a lot. That's a lot of fun. As you can guess from me being an English and history teacher, I like to read and write quite a bit. So yeah, that's kind of the essence of who I am.
Here's the part you've all been waiting for, the questions. How long have you been teaching for?
Yeah, so this is 12th year, if I'm counting right. I taught my first 2 years out of college. We're at Wendover High School, of all places. I taught on the Utah side of Wendover because half is on Utah side, half is on the Nevada side, so people can go to the casinos and gamble. So yeah, that was my first teaching job. It was a really small school. It was 7th through 12th grade. I taught 7th and 8th grade reading, and then I moved on to like high school English. There were like 150 students total in the whole school. And yeah, I'm so glad I started there because I got to work with students that really needed me because it was a kind of impoverished area, an area that struggled quite a bit. I got to learn how to manage a classroom and help students a lot. And then at night I could go to the casinos and gamble. No, I'm just joking. I didn't do that, but maybe I should have. Maybe I'd be more wealthy than I am now, or I would be on the streets. I don't know. One of the two. Yeah.
Okay. What was your favorite subject in school?
My favorite subject in school was always history. I always gravitated towards it. I felt like history, when done right, was like just a really good story. And being able to make connections with the past and the present, and being able to make the past come to life, that's always been an interest of mine. And so when I thought about teaching, history was just the natural route to go in when I had a chance. Because it's always been my favorite subject, and I was lucky to have some really amazing history teachers that taught me how you can look at different perspectives and see the nuance in history, and it's rarely just one side or the other.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you actually teach like that too, that you also teach that there are more than one side to every event in history, that it's not just one-sided. Now on to the next question. What did you get a degree in?
So I went to Brigham Young University, and I got 2 degrees actually. I had done enough. I had gotten a lot of college credit in high school, and I had done enough schooling by that point that I'm like, I don't know if I want to do English or history. History was my favorite subject, but I felt like English I could make more of a career out of, because if I decided I didn't want to teach, you can adapt English to a lot of different things. And so I'm like, which one should I choose? And eventually I couldn't choose, so I majored in both. So I got a bachelor's degree in English and a bachelor's degree in history from BYU. And then about 10 years ago, I decided to go back to school and get my master's degree. I went to Weber State and got my master's in English. At that time, I was teaching English, and so that made sense. And again, I felt like it was more adaptable. So yeah, I have my bachelor's degrees and master's degree. Man, you can tell it's the end of the long day of teaching, because then I start slurring words together. It happens all the time.
Ooh. When and why did you decide that you wanted to teach? Was it always a plan? And if not, what was the original plan that caused the change?
Wow, really good question. Teaching has always been on my radar, I'd say. It's always something I liked to do and felt good at, or good about doing, even from a young age. Like, I'm the youngest in my family, but I always enjoyed like teaching or mentoring kids younger than me, whether they were friends or whether they were like cousins or that kind of thing. And when I eventually became an uncle, like mentoring my nieces and nephews was something I enjoyed. And I always enjoyed learning. I had some amazing teachers myself that helped me. So yeah, teaching was always on my radar. It wasn't necessarily a foregone conclusion that it's what I was going to do. When I went to college, I thought about other things, law school, and was the big one. Um, and there are times I wonder, man, how would life be different if I'd gone in a different direction? But when I was finishing up college and I got my degrees, I was like, uh, what? How can I take a break from school? Because I was kind of burnt out with school. And so when I graduated from school and I was trying to figure out, do I want to go back to law school? I'm like, I need a break. And so one of the things I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give this teaching thing a shot, since it's always something I had thought about and been on my radar. And so yeah, I got the job at Wendover High School, and I enjoyed it quite a bit and realized it was something that I could potentially do long term. I still do have thoughts about, do I want to do it the rest of my life or not? But I have enjoyed it. And I'm glad I've gone in the direction I did go in.
I'm glad that you went that direction too, because I would not have passed
That
a
makes me
push.
happy.
Okay. You are really good at getting to know your students. How do you do this, and why do you feel that it is important to know who you are teaching?
That's beyond anything I do. That's the most important part of my job, I think, and the best part of my job is my students and getting to know them. And I feel like getting to know students makes everything else easier. When they know that I care about them and I know they care about me, the teaching thing is a lot easier than it otherwise would be. And I can help meet their needs better when I know them on an individual basis. So there are a few things I try to do to get to know students as much as I possibly can. One of the things I started doing probably 5 or 6 years ago is I realized that when students signed up for my class, I would get their pictures. And before school started, I could look at their pictures and start to get down names before school actually started. And I'm not perfect by any stretch, but with names. But I felt like I could get names down really quickly. And there's just something that helps you connect to a person when they know your name really quickly rather than just a random student in the class. So I always try to prioritize getting names down quickly, and students are always a little bit shocked when they come into my class for the first time and I know their name. Um, and then one of the very first assignments we do in both my classes is like a getting to know you survey or quiz, just to see where students are coming from, what their experience with school has been, what their experience with history has been, but then also their individual likes and interests, because that makes it easier for me to remember them, but it also makes it easier for us to see each other as human beings rather than student and teacher. And I always try to respond back to those very intentionally with a lot of thought and effort so that students know very early on in my class that I know who they are, I care about who they are, and that their interests are important to me. And then throughout the year, I try to connect with students as much as possible, talk to them about what's going on. I hope my class is a safe space and they feel like they can come to me and talk to me about what's going on in life, good or bad. I try to go to events outside of school or like school-related activities that students are involved in if I know about them, whether it be plays or marching band concerts or choir concerts or sporting events. And I think when students see teachers outside of school supporting them at different events, that helps let them know that teacher's in their corner.
Okay. What would you tell students who are struggling in school?
I know in high school it's hard to see a way out. And like you get trapped in the nitty-gritty of going to school every day and you're not necessarily learning about things you're passionate about, and you don't have the freedom and autonomy that you would like to have. It's exhausting, it's early in the morning, and it can feel never ending. But what I would remind students is like this is a very small part of a very long book they're writing. So this is a chapter in a book that's going to be 80 chapters long or however long you want to imagine. And so sometimes it's just, yes, I want them to enjoy high school and I want them to feel good about the space they're in. I want them to get involved in my class and in activities outside of school and all of that good stuff. But at the end of the day, if high school is not fun, if it's a struggle, if it's tough, and we all go through moments where it's like that, then sometimes it's just about powering through, surviving as best as possible, enduring through it to get to the next chapter of your life. And if you can get through this and get to the point in your life where you actually get to have more choice and freedom as far as what you're studying, what your job is, you can do more what you're passionate about and what you enjoy. When you get to a point where you don't have the drama of high school and you have family and friends that you can rely on and that you know you can count on, that things get better. And I also hope that they know they're not alone, that we're all going through this together. There are times students struggle, there are times teachers struggle. The more we realize that we're all human and we're going through this thing together, the better we can help each other through it.
Have you ever thought, I really want a good burger? Have you ever thought that it would be really funny if that burger was named after a toilet? How about a skibbity toilet? Well, look no further. The Meme Chat Cafe has just that. Just kidding. The Meme Chat Cafe doesn't even exist. Not yet, at least. It's now time for the life update. This episode, I'm going to be doing something a bit different than normal. Other than telling you about the classes I'm in, or the play that I'm auditioning for, or the play that I'm in, or the book I'm writing, or the musicking I'm doing, I'm instead going to be telling you about the really exciting things that are ahead in the world of I Believe. Have you ever thought that our episodes have been a bit scarce? Well, you're right. And starting today, episodes will be sent out weekly, either on Friday or Saturday at 5 p.m. If you want me to look into a belief and cover it on the podcast, please fill out the Suggest a Belief form on our website, ibelievepodcast.org. No spaces. It is also to my absolute joy that I'm able to tell you that all of our Halloween episodes are planned and already getting scripted. For these episodes, it will be 4 weeks of horror, in good fun, of course. Then, on Halloween, there will be a special bonus episode released, the topic of which will be announced in I Believe Horror Episode 1. With that mini-series, I will be bringing in an amazing new co-host, Jasper. You can find out more about her on the About Us page on our website. For the fun of it, we now have a newsletter, which you can sign up for by clicking the link on the yellow banner at the top of our website's homepage. All in all, you should go check out our website. It's pretty cool. You can see us, the episodes, access resources, contact us, ask us questions, find fun facts, and soon you might even be able to watch or listen to us mess up, because it do be funny. Recently, I was able to figure out how to get the podcast to be copy and pasted to other podcast places. Sadly, I have only been able to figure out Amazon Music. But we will also no longer be having episodes being released on YouTube until 1 week after the episode has been released on Spotify. This is due to the fun numbers I get to look at. It helps us grow and become the best we can be. So, if you would like to help us improve, listen to the episodes on Spotify, because for a bit they are going to be audio only. And of course, please support us by following us on Instagram at i.believe.podcast. Follow us on Spotify, and then click that bell so that you know when we release an episode. Then you can rate us both on Spotify and on our website. I would like to thank you dearly for listening and supporting us, and that concludes the Life Update. What would you tell a student who is struggling with having time for both schoolwork and life?
Man, that's a tough one, because when I first started teaching, I kind of had there's this teacher attitude sometimes, and I'm guilty of it sometimes too, where if students aren't doing schoolwork or they're not doing homework or they don't seem invested in the class, I'm like, oh, they're lazy. They're just playing video games or watching TV or sleeping, or like they're doing these things that aren't important, and my class should be more important. But as I've taught longer and longer, I realize high school students are incredibly busy. Most high school students have a lot going on. Many of my students have jobs. They have hobbies and activities that they're passionate about and should be passionate about, like music and dance and sports and all kinds of things. They have families that they should be spending time with. They have friends they should continue to be developing relationships with. And as a teenager, like, you want to have some fun too, because there's time to be an adult later. You're still a teenager. You should be able to have some fun. So as best I can, I try to make it, even though I teach a college level class now, I try to make it, try to help them find that balance by not overwhelming them with homework, is the first thing. And so teachers that has to be a lot. Teachers have to consider that. And that's not something students have control over, but I think it's really important for teachers to always think, how long is this thing I'm asking of students going to take? And is that a fair request of their time, considering all those demands on their time? But students themselves, at the end of the day, you have to decide what your priorities are. It's okay if you have so much going on in your life that you're prioritizing other meaningful things, and maybe school isn't the center of your life. Maybe you're just getting by and surviving. Maybe you get a B or a C, or you just barely pass a class by the skin of your teeth, but you're actually thriving and enjoying life and living things outside of school. That's not the end of the world. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to hold ourselves to a perfect standard. And so overcoming that perfectionism and feeling like I have to be perfect with school and with life, I think that's really important. And then along those lines is just adopting the attitude that your best is good enough. There are times in life where maybe we don't have as much going on, or things are going more smoothly, and it's easier to prioritize school. There are times where we get sick or we get slammed by lots of things outside of school, and it's hard to find that balance. Your best doesn't have to be the same all the time, right? Your best right now might not be your best 2 months from now. But as long as, no matter what life's throwing at you, no matter what your circumstances are, you're doing the best you can with the conditions you're under, that's what matters. And so I've heard it said that, you're in your own little boat. You can't always control the storm outside of your boat, but you can make sure you're going in the right direction more often than not. Or you can make sure that you're at least moving, even if it's slower at some points than other points. And so, go easy on yourself, be kind to yourself. If we as a society can be kind to each other, but also to ourselves, I think the world would be a lot better place.
That's good. Let's see. What would you tell a student who is struggling with paying attention?
First of all, I would try to empathize with them and say, I get it. It's hard when you have an hour and a half long classes and you have 4 of them in a day, and maybe you were up late the previous night for a really legitimate reason, and it can be hard to focus. First of all, I don't expect students to always be perfect. Like, we all have days where maybe we just need to put our head down on our desk and survive, right? It only becomes a concern to me when it becomes a pattern, and when I feel like it's impacting their learning overall or their potential to do well in the class overall. So if that's the case, first of all, I try as much as I can never to call a student out publicly or humiliate them publicly or shame them, because that does more harm than good. So I would probably talk to them in private. I would try to come to an understanding about why they're struggling to pay attention. Is it they're tired? Are they getting enough sleep? Of course, sometimes there's ADHD or there's neurodivergent kids who it's really, really tough for them to pay attention for a long period of time. And so having those conversations and seeing what's going on beyond the surface, rather than just making assumptions that they don't care or they're lazy or whatever the case may be, I think that's really important, because most students want to learn. Most students want to pay attention, but maybe there's a barrier preventing them from doing that. And so figuring out what the barriers are and trying as best I can to help with those barriers and being flexible. So if a student struggles paying attention for a long time, but it helps if they can draw while they listen, great. If students are struggling to pay attention or they're struggling to focus on their work, but listening to music helps them work, great, right? Let's find something that will help engage you. Maybe you don't like working in the classroom, but you like working out in the hall. Maybe you can't do everything in an assignment, but you can at least improve. You can do part of it. Like, oftentimes, if students who aren't engaged can, like, if we can find a starting point where maybe they're not where every other student is, but they're at least improving, that can see results in the long run. And so yeah, I try not to make assumptions, and I try to be flexible and understanding and give students some strategies for maybe improving from where they're at.
Okay. Let's see. We'll do a fun question now, because it's fun question time.
Yeah, fun questions.
What is your favorite movie and why?
Oh, fun questions and hard questions. My wife makes fun of me because all the time I'll watch a movie or think about a movie and I'll be like, oh, that's one of my favorite movies of all time. She says, you've said that probably about thousands of movies. If I had to boil it down to one movie, it would probably be The Dark Knight. The second Batman movie in Christopher Nolan's trilogy. I just really like the depth of the movie. Just there's so many philosophical questions it tackles while also being an entertaining, attention-grabbing movie. And I love superhero movies. So if I'm allowed to choose a series of movies, I love the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I can't pick just one of the movies because I love them all, but I love the Lord of the Rings movies too. I love the epic fantasy but also I love movies that make you think and make you question important, big, life-altering circumstances. Yeah.
Okay. With all the Marvel stuff around your desk, who's your favorite Marvel character?
Favorite Marvel character, another tough question. If I had to choose one, and this has probably changed over time. I used to say Captain America, and I still love Captain America because I like his uncompromising goodness, that no matter what, he's going to stand up for what he thinks is right, even if it's not what other people think is right. I love that. Probably as I've become an adult and I've watched the TV series, I really like Daredevil. I like him because, I don't know, the idea of a blind superhero is pretty cool. Somebody with a disability who isn't limited by it but is empowered by it. I think that's a great message. I love the idea he's a lawyer besides being a superhero, and he not only fights criminals, he puts them on trial. But I also like the moral questions it asks about if you're taking the law into your own hands, if you're a vigilante, is that a good thing? Or should you go through the correct channels to make sure that somebody that the law is enforced, that somebody's held accountable? Or is violence an answer to problems, right? Like, if somebody's doing if there's a bad guy, is beating the bad guy up a good thing, or does that just lead to more issues? Or another big moral question in that is anybody ever truly good or evil? We all have these imperfect parts of ourselves, and it can be hard to make sure we stay on the good side of the line rather than the bad side. Because sometimes we as human beings, we tend to, maybe we're pursuing something good, but the things we do to get there aren't good. Or maybe we're doing good things, but our reasons for doing it aren't the right reasons. And I think that Daredevil asks those questions, and I think that's interesting.
Okay. I haven't seen Daredevil yet. It's one of those newer Marvel shows that I haven't been able to get to yet. But yeah, based on what you said, that's exactly what I like to see in a Marvel movie. Maybe I should go and watch that, see if I like a Marvel show too. We're down to our final 2 questions, and they're both really difficult.
Nice.
So, yeah. What advice would you give for somebody who is struggling to retain the information given in class?
Good question. I think, again, a lot of this has to do with the teacher too. I do way too much talking, and I realize that. And I try to do a variety of activities, but still at the end of the day, I do a lot of talking, because studies show when the teacher's talking and all students are doing is sitting there, they don't retain the information a lot. So if students aren't retaining the information, like as a history teacher, I need to help them understand the content and learn the content, but I have to find a way to do it in a way that is lasting. And so whether that's attaching a Kahoot to it, or film clips or movie clips, or having discussion throughout, or doing creative type things or projects or that kind of things to connect with what we're learning. Like as a teacher, you have to have a variety of different activities so that students are more likely to retain information. So lots of it, I think, is on the teacher. But if a student is putting in the effort, if they're paying attention, if they're engaged, if they're doing the work outside of class and they're still not retaining it, my biggest advice would be for them to simplify things. I think sometimes students put so much pressure on themselves to be perfect and to remember everything that they get overwhelmed and they don't remember anything. So if you're struggling to remember things, like choose a big idea you're going to remember and 1 or 2 things to support it. History, if you get bogged down by the details and we can't remember every single detail. But if you can be like, okay, this is the essential information. This is what I have to know. All this other stuff, it would be nice if I remembered it, but it's not as essential. I'm just going to remember this. If we can simplify things a little bit and just focus on the basics, I think that's helpful.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, last one. This is the really difficult one.
Okay, I'm ready.
Do you think education is important, and why?
I do absolutely think education is important. I feel like being a lifelong learner is important. I feel like it's important for us as human beings to not stay static, to not always be the same as what we were. Yes, we have the core of who we are. We have our core personality and identity and beliefs and characteristics, but we as human beings should be open to learning and growing. And that's what education is all about. The best people in history, my heroes in history, like Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, they always had the core of being a leader or being a hero, but they also improved over time. George Washington learned over time what it meant to be a leader, and he realized he was too ambitious when he was younger. And he was able to curb that ambition to the point where he could lead the U.S. in the ultimate underdog story and walk away after 4 years of being president. Abraham Lincoln, for a long time, knew that slavery was wrong, but didn't know if ending slavery everywhere was necessarily the right thing to do, or didn't know what to do after slavery was ended. But as time went on, he realized, I can change my opinion. I can learn and grow. And it is the right thing to end slavery everywhere. And we need to find a way to treat people of every skin color equally in this country. And the reason they were all able to do that is education. They read.
They were constantly learning new things. They were constantly talking to different people from different walks of life. They were getting different perspectives, and that allows us to learn and grow as human beings. Now, education in a formal school setting, of course, I'm a teacher. Of course, I think it's important. So, yeah, going to school, doing well in school, learning in a structured environment, that's great. But beyond that, just being open to education doesn't just mean what you learn at school. Being open to new experiences, meeting new people who are different than you, talking to people that are different than you, traveling to different places and seeing different cultures and how different parts of the world work, being open to new experiences and having a growth mindset so that you're not limited by who you were before. You're open to growing into the best version of yourself. That's what education is, and I think that's incredibly important.
And I believe that too. That was our interview. I truly hope that as Mr. Jeppson listens to this, that he notices that I have not thanked him enough. He has been one of my most influential teachers. He has given me so much advice and helped me through some of the toughest moments of my life. And most of the time, he probably didn't even know that he was having that impact on me. Thank you, Mr. Jeppson, for the work that you do, the work that you have done, and the work that you will continue to do, inspiring and helping the people around you and the children of the future. And thank you, dear listener, for joining me for this episode of I Believe. Join me again next week when I explain why I believe.